Hello and welcome to Whatever Etc. number 13 for June 4th, 2012. I'm Keith Brown, and today I'm going to be talking about wising up the mark, or beginning to talk about wising up the mark. The third aspect of mindful contemplation, being open to possibility, is accomplished through mastering the art of imaginative variation. The end of this activity is a kind of transcendence, but I really want to re-emphasize that this is not transcendence in the sense of escaping the world. To use our power to imagine, to use our power to fantasize, to use our power to vary the possibilities, and to take that and use it for nothing more than to escape the everyday, than to be escapist. This is the big con game of existence. Those who do not develop with purpose and deliberation the power of their imagination will succumb to possibility rather than master possibility. This evidences in a number of ways. The easiest to spot is living vicariously through the exploits of your favorite athlete or your favorite actor. You make do in life by participating in this other person's success. Another way is escaping from the world through obsessions with comic book heroes or war heroes or science fiction storylines or even soap operas or video games. You become preoccupied with the pressing needs of the fiction. All of your attention, all of your focus is given to the fantasy, and you close down. You can even become overly involved in politics or business in such a way that you imagine you're doing something good or worthwhile. We see these fantasies that people get caught up in without any sort of deliberate effort on their part. They get swept up into these fantasies, either with film or television or politics or business, and they begin speaking, first of all, not from having attended to the world as it's happening, not from having focused upon their actual situatedness, and certainly not from the sort of deliberate, purposeful variation of imaginative possibility that would allow you to see more opportunities and see more paths and directions that you might be able to take. Rather, you get caught up in the fantasy, and then the fantasy interprets the world as it's happening and interprets your actual situation, becomes a filter so that you can't see what's really happening in the world, so that you can't see what your actual situatedness is. But giving ourselves up to such a powerful aspect of our mind with no practice of deliberate direction, this actually makes us so attached to the story. We no longer heed the world. We become oblivious to our own situation. This is pure delusion. Now, I'd ask you to think about what happens when you try to imagine a square circle. Quite a few people wrote back with some interesting attempts. Lamar and Justin and Danny, I especially want to thank the three of you because you gave very detailed accounts of what you tried out. What was interesting about all of the things that I heard back, whether they were short or detailed, was this. Not a single person said, "I did it. I squared the circle because my imagination is so powerful." But all who did share with me their own exercises commonly reported the joy of trying to do this, as well as getting better at recognizing other kinds of contradictions that they put before their minds. Now we take up this power of imaginative variation in order to free ourselves from the great con, from the fantasies and the imaginative storylines that we have accepted as a part of our lives, to disengage ourselves, to detach ourselves from these things, so that instead of these storylines, these narratives that have no necessity filtering out and pre-interpreting, presupposing the world we live in, these these fantasies pre-establishing interpretations and meanings of our own situatedness. Now we take what we've done in looking at the world as it's happening. We take what we've done in trying to situate ourselves and understand our situation. We take this little work that we've done to start seeing how in doing imaginative variations we hit contradictions that we can't move past. But inside of this area in which we are no longer not just hitting the contradictions we can't move past, but seeing that many of the things that we take as necessary are not quite as necessary as we thought they were. The great con, the long con, how we unthoughtfully use our own imaginations, living only vicariously through others, becoming obsessed with fictions, utilizing some sort of pre-established interpretation of the world, is the main origin point for the contradictions that often disempower us in life. Becoming accessible to our own possibilities means recognizing the ways our thoughtless use of fantasy keeps us closed rather than open. So I'm not trying to say to you, don't fantasize about things. Obviously not. I'm saying, let's use this imaginative power we have. But the question is not, how do we use fantasy in a very small, controlled way, but how do we actually use it to show us where the contradictions in our thinking have originated, and how we can overcome those contradictions, as well as overcome the false notion that some things we take as necessary are merely just actualities that we've become too accustomed to. If anarcho-cynical thinking, if philosophizing as a way of life offers us anything, is that it provides us that great assistance, wising up the marks of the great thoughtless con game. That is, it wises us up to how we are conning our own selves, keeping our own minds closed down to their full potential, which keeps us closed off from living a life of flourishing possibility. Next time, I'm going to talk to you a little more about the difference between actuality and necessity, and how using imaginative variation on our own actual situation and on what's happening in the world helps us become accessible to a flourishing path for wholeness, for healthiness, even for holiness. Tranquilitas et bonum vobiscum, my friends. Tranquility and goodness be with you now and forever. And I'll see you next time on Whatever, etc. Thank you very much.